Where I am is in the north, and it was taken over on Saturday very, very swiftly. And it's just crazy to me how quickly things have sort of adapted into a new normal. The first couple of days were very eerie. Nobody was going into the streets, nobody was quite sure what to expect. It was really only Taliban fighters that were out on their motorcycles and sort of shooting their guns into the air. But since then, it's now Wednesday here. Things are slowly coming back to a new normal and a new life, and the shops are opening again and there is a little bit more noise on the street. Slowly, more women are coming out as well, and it's sort of an acceptance of a new era.
Yeah, so is there much tension when you leave where you're staying, or does it feel like that tension has been relieved somewhat?
Yeah, it is still very tense, and especially in the nighttime, I would never sort of step outside where I am in the evenings. And there is a lot of Taliban fighters here, and each day it seems like hundreds more sort of come in, and they seem to have eyes in every part of the every street, every market. They're sort of everywhere. So it is a tense thing because I'm sort of trying to adapt as to what to expect. However, they have made it clear that they aren't targeting foreigners, so that does make me feel a little bit more safe. But it's a lot of unknowns because it's still very unclear how they will govern and the sort of interpretation of the Sharia law that they are going to bring in. And so people are just trying to find their way around a little bit and really lay very low.
Yeah, do you fear for your own personal safety?
I guess a healthy sense of fear. I think you should always have a little bit of a healthy sense of fear when you're doing this kind of work, just to keep your wits about you. But having said that, I'm very calm and I take calculated risks when I am out, and I try to just stay very undercover as well and not draw any attention to myself.
What's your plan for getting out of the country, or are you planning on staying there for a period of time to see how this Taliban transition takes place?
Yeah, I really did want to stay out for sort of as long as I could, but I had to weigh up the option and think that that might be really challenging, especially when the Taliban takes full power. So at the moment, we're kind of working on how I can possibly get out of where I am. I'm very far from Kabul, which is an issue given what's happening at the Kabul airport. But the plan is to hopefully get there within the next few days and then eventually get out. So it's been a really interesting time, and part of me wishes I could stay to document it more, but I think that the situation may become a little hairy even for foreigners after that.
What did you make of that press conference that the Taliban held yesterday and some of the commitments that they made in that?
It was really interesting. You can certainly see they're on this PR blitz where they're trying to establish themselves as a really legitimate government and that people are going to be safe there. It is very hard for me to take them at their word. I think that until I see that being put into action, and you also notice when they talk about women's rights, what are they? They don't give specifics, and that's also what concerns me. They're talking from their lens and not from a lens that most women, I think, in Afghanistan have been used to in the past 20 years. So right now, I don't fully trust that they're going to deliver on that. And I also think it's really important to note that we are seeing a lot of images from Kabul where the Taliban are out and people are still able to talk to them somewhat. But the Taliban in Kabul is very different to factions of the Taliban that exist in rural areas and places that have been under the Taliban rule for several weeks or months or years even, where there are a lot more stringent punishments and there aren't that sort of flexibility. So I think the Taliban in Kabul is trying to sort of be the face, but in reality, what's happening in rural areas is still quite disheartening.
And have you been able to speak to local women to find out what their concerns and fears and anxieties are?
Absolutely. And so many women I've spoke to over the past few days have just been absolutely devastated. And it's hard for them to wrap their head around. They've spent their entire lives going to school, under a certain amount of freedom. They've become pharmacists, doctors, lawyers, teachers, and to think that they would have to give all of that up to stay at home, not be able to work, and every time they stepped outside, have to be fully covered. And that is just a terrifying concept for them. However, I have a couple of really extraordinary, brave Afghan women I know that are really going to fight back against this. And we're actually planning a protest today in Kabul and refuse to wear a burqa and refuse to adhere to any of these rules. So my thoughts are really going to be with them, especially after the US pulls out. And I just hope that they will be safe in pursuing the women's rights. in Afghanistan.